Okay, this is a video for the mannequin on muscles that move the forearm. You should have completed the facial muscles and muscles of the glenohumeral joint or the shoulder joint, and also muscles that move the scapula. Okay, so now we are doing arm muscles. We are going to build just the biceps brachii and the triceps brachii. I know, I think brachioradialis is on there, but due to time constraints and such, we're going to just build these two. Okay. So when you start out building these muscles, you want to roll the clay into a tube. Okay, so roll it in your hand into a tube is the easiest way. You kind of have to put it up there to get an idea of the size. So, and then we have to actually roll in tendons. So just rolling it back and forth between my hands like this. Okay, so this obviously is a big bulky muscle, so sometimes I start out with too much clay and then I have to trim it down. It depends on how you want your muscle. So this one, obviously, like the length, if this is just the muscle belly, is good, but then I need to add tendons to it. And so on these muscles, the tendons are gonna, the muscle belly lies on the bone, and then the tendons are gonna be long on there. So to get the tendons, what you wanna do is lay your, hold on, muscle. So here we go. So to make the tendons, you lay your muscle on something to roll, and then you just pick one end and just roll that one end. Now the bicep originates in two locations, hence the name bicep, and so we're going to have to split that tendon on that end, so you want it to be thick enough to split. Okay, so you can see I've kind of rolled it out, and then now you can see that the muscle belly is fatter than the tendons. Okay, but it originates on the supraglenoid tubercle of the scapula, so it originates at the top of the glenoid cavity, and then also on the coracoid process of the scapula, and then it inserts on the radial tuberosity. So long story short, my tendons are not long enough. Okay, so I'm just rolling them out some more, and I want to make sure that my one tendon on top doesn't get too thin, because that's the one that I have to cut to make two heads. Okay, so that looks a little better. So I'm just going to kind of smooth it out and get it a little prettier. I added some clay to it to make it thicker. Okay. And then I use my little tool, the wooden tool, to cut it in half. Okay, so you can see where I've cut this in half, right? So here are my two heads for my origin, and here's my one for my insertion. So I'm gonna push the muscle belly on here, and then this one goes underneath the spine to the top of that glenoid tubercle, and then this one goes right here. I am just going to chop off that little bit. So the acromion process, So now I have those two, and then this comes down to the radial tuberosity. And here's my bicep muscle. So draw my line for my tendon, my line for my tendon, and then the striations are all parallel. Okay, hopefully you get the point. And then again, take a picture, label it, and make sure that I can see in the picture the two heads, the origin, and then the insertion. All right, so we're doing the same thing for the tricep. The tricep is on the posterior side of the arm, so it has 3 heads. Okay, I'm going to start out rolling smoothing everything out. Kind of the muscle's not kind as, well, some people is, just as big. But here's my tricep muscle. So from there, I'm going to try to roll out my tendons. So the tricep has 3 heads. That means you are going to have 3 divisions on one end instead of 2, which is going to require that your muscle be, that tendon be thick enough for you to cut it in 3. So you might have to add some clay to it. So you can see I've rolled out, I have my muscle belly, I've rolled it out. It inserts on the olecranon process. So my tendons aren't quite long enough. So one head of my tricep is going to go on the bottom half of the of the glenoid fossa, and then the other 2 heads are just going to go on the back of the humerus. So at this point, I'm just trying to add some clay to my one tendon so it's thick enough and I get it a little longer. So it can reach everywhere. So remember, that's the joy of using clay. So you can see I've just added in some thickness right here. Okay, so now I can see that that's going to reach to where I need. And so now I'm actually going to flatten out that tendon so I can cut it in 3 for the tricep part. So now it starts getting a little crowded in here around the shoulder joint. Okay, so you can see I've cut it in 3. So this one is just a short tendon coming off, and I'm probably gonna really could cut this one off some. So kind of a stair step. So the longest one is gonna go, I'm gonna peel this off. So the longest one goes on the bottom part of the glenoid fossa, so underneath. I think that's still a little bit long. So it's going underneath here, and then the other 2 are just going to sit on the back. Okay, so in general, I think my tendons are a little long. So I am modifying them, and I took out a section of tendon. So you can see I just took it in 2 pieces. I guess a good thing is you get troubleshooting tips like this. The bad thing is it takes longer to do. Okay, so tendon on the back of the arm. So again, bending this tendon down, putting these tendons on the back of the humerus. I'm going to cut these off. Okay, right there. Right there. Wrap my deltoid back around. I'm knocking everything off now. Okay, so hopefully you can see the 3 heads. 1, 2, 3, and then the olecranon process down here. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw in my line for my delineating my tendons. Right here. And then I can start with parallel striations. Then I have the bicep, which is a elbow flexor, and the tricep, which is the extensor. We were going to do the brachioradialis, which is a synergist to the bicep, but we're not. Okay, so there you go. Those are the muscles of the arm. So remember, you should have either the pectoralis or the deltoid. You should have both the bicep and the tricep, and then you should have either the latissimus dorsi or the trapezius. And then that just leaves us with the muscles of the hip and thigh, muscles of leg. Okay, we still have 3 sections left to go.